allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with roll call, and Eric, why don't we start with you on the phone, and then we'll go on the room.
Present.
Jamie.
David Piper, present.
Robin Dudley, present.
CJ Frank Ford, present.
Peter present. Rob Daniels present.
Great. We'll be diligent here and just go ahead and move on to new business. And we have Sundown's Garden here. If you wouldn't mind, we'll go ahead and start with you guys and present your trip. Thanks for being patient.
No worries. Thank you. Good morning. My name is David Bergman. I work with Sundown Gardens. I'm one of the partners there. Scott Levy's with me, one of the other partners. And we are here this morning to request a tax abatement for our new property on the south side here, just off of 135. Our current location is up in Westville, Indiana. We have a garden center and landscape turf tree care facility where we employ approximately 90 people throughout the season. On the south side, our intent is to start mostly on garden center, maybe mostly garden center based. The project here has taken us approximately 2 years to kind of get off the ground, and we're about 2 weeks away from breaking ground on this project. At our current facility, when we moved from Carmel to Westfield, it took us about 4 or 5 years to break even on the garden center side of things. We had a current client base, we had current working staff that we somewhat transitioned to our current facility in Westfield. And we utilized kind of the landscape install division along with our turf tree care division, our irrigation division to somewhat support our garden center as we got it up to speed and built the facility. Basically, there's a lot of money that goes into building the facility, the garden center, the greenhouses, and all the infrastructure that goes into that. So we were fortunate enough to have all these additional ancillary components of our business. Now we are starting to see the benefits of that. As we transition down to Bargersville, we don't have that extra component to somewhat lean on. We're starting fresh. We don't have an existing client base. We don't have an existing, call it additional divisions to help support this. So our venture into Bargersville is still being supported by our current facility until we can get it up and running. The current staff that we have, we're going to be transitioning 2 long-term employees at Sundown, 1 partner, and then an additional person that's been there for many, many years, along with 3 additional full-time employees that we've been working to kind of train and get up to speed. Who will become kind of our management team on the south side. And then we'll be adding in additional employees kind of from the Johnson County area. Should be 3 to 4 additional full-time employees and then multiple part-time. Obviously, we're a seasonal garden center, so ebbs and flows of our employee base. But the big thing is we're starting fresh. We don't have anything to lean on. We don't have, an existing client base. So we're intending to get this facility up and going as fast as we can. Obviously, a 2-year process. Prices, costs have changed drastically for the last few years. So we have seen a massive, increase with inflation and everything else that's going on to get this facility up and running. So we've had to somewhat back off on our approach, or at least adjust our approach in the short term, and then have plans to continue to build and continue to add as the years, progress. But we are requesting a tax abatement to try to help offset some of its costs to help us get this facility up and running. And the hope is obviously to start to turn a profit as soon as we can so we can continue to develop this facility for the south side. So that's all. I don't know if there's any questions, but that's the reason for the request of the tax abatement.
How many years
How many years?
for the abatement? 5, 10?
I don't have that in front of me. I'm sorry, I'm filling in for somebody today, so I don't have all that information. Is that something that I need to request now?
Well, not today, but I mean,
Today?
I don't think they're gonna probably come to a decision today, but
So, and that is something I don't know, so I don't want to speak
sure,
out of
that's fine.
context for certain. I apologize, I don't have that in front of me.
Hey, Andrew, when there's this kind of request based on your experience, can we as I'm assuming can we as a commission ask for like a 5-year projected P&L from the person asking so we can see, well, they're asking for X amount and that represents certain percent of the revenue, represents the elimination of maybe the deficit of cash flow for the first 2 years, just to see what kind of impact, are they asking too much? Are they really wanting this? I'm not saying you are, I'm just asking that question.
Sure, so you can ask for anything you want. I want to be clear, and they can respond
Because
accordingly.
the
normal,
has an annual impact.
yeah, the
on their
normal
cash
practice
flow.
is that they fill out the form and say, here's what here's what we're asking for. I think, I'm trying to find it, 'cause I think Amanda sent it to us somewhere, so I can help out here what they're actually asking for. And usually it says, hey, we're asking for this, and this is our rationale why, and this is the numbers. And there's not a whole lot of, hey, what does your profit look like, and how does
Yeah, and I'm thinking, what I'm asking, if somebody's asking for, $25,000 a year, what kind of impact does that really have?
We can do a data savings calculation. Because then what they're gonna save and what you're gonna lose.
Yeah, that's a part of the documentation that they filled out.
Right,
Okay.
and I have that, they have it one for 10, one for 7, and one for
Okay.
5, so that's why I wanted clarification on what
Yeah, so
the request is.
there's a schedule that they fill out that says, here's what we're asking for, and here's what it would be if we didn't ask for it. So that you can see those tables, like here, the 5-year, we're asking for, I'm making a number, $50,000, and you get 50. If we ask for 7, it's 75, and you get 25, right? And if it's 100, then 100 and 0, right? So there's a whole table that I think is what you would have to make a decision off of what the dollars and cents are.
It's just so that I'm clear, that information has been provided.
Right, but, so they
Already.
submitted 3 different options, so my question was, which one are you asking for?
Okay. And what time do we have to have that finalized?
Council president?
So I'm able to.
It goes to the council first. It only comes to you guys because it's in the tip area.
It's like, it's really a council
It's
decision.
really a council decision.
Okay.
So it would
That's
be
what it is.
when it passes, probably tomorrow. Well, we have a
It's
council,
next week.
we have a council meeting the 19th, then there's one on the 26th as well. So if you miss, you're probably too late to get it in for Tuesday.
I was told it was gonna be next week.
Yeah, so you probably have to make that decision
We'd have to have the paperwork sooner rather than later.
tomorrow.
Okay. And we can do-
You have to, for sure. Isn't it day tomorrow? 10 o'clock today.
Perfect.
But you, I might add in,
That's your time.
we would do this for anybody. I think we'll add it to the agenda, and then you need to, when you make the same presentation to the council, you would say you're asking for this.
Okay.
Out of what that paperwork is. So whoever's there on Tuesday night needs to say, this is what we're requesting, and then we'll respond accordingly.
Okay. That's fair. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming down.
All right, we'll go ahead and move down the agenda for Plaza Project progress update. For Rob and myself. You wanna take a initial grasp or?
So yeah, we basically, so I can't remember which drawing you guys saw.
Is this the one you guys originally saw?
Yeah, like that.
Okay, so that was, their original, estimate for that was 3.1 billion. And we went back to them and said that's 3 times the budget. We need to make some amendments to that. They came back with a 2.7 and a 2.5, and we said, still, you're way off. So at the last meeting we had with them, basically just said, look, you guys are not anywhere near our numbers. We need to discuss more of a phasing in type project because of that. So what you're looking at now, what they sent out last night was what they came back with. So basically, what we've done is talk to them about putting the infrastructure in for the plumbing and the electrical for a future bathroom, a future stage, and basically just making this a green space right now with some plantings and, what you see on this drawing. So it's just kind of the bare bones, and then the estimate they gave has the alternative, 3 or 4 different alternatives that we can add in there for the restroom and some other stuff. So now we're sitting at, for the bare bones, it's just 1.1 by their estimate, of course, and then 1.8 for all of the additional alternatives.
Take care of
What's the top one?
That's the top one,
The
yes.
basic bid.
Yeah. There's one that shows the restroom and then this stage canopy, which that's not at all what we had talked to them about. So just kind of ignore that. But yeah, the bare bones would be the one that does not have the restroom on the south end. So I think where we're at with REA right now is we just are asking for the final deliverable on the design phase. And then I think we all, as a committee, need to really talk about the financing of it and where that's going to come from before we move forward with probably sending out RFPs to bid the construction. With all these other things we have going on.
Please do the, please let's discuss the financing before you go to get bids.
Yeah.
Because if we've been, the town's crunched themselves on the past 2 projects, you don't necessarily want to get in that situation.
Right. So I think that's where we're at. I think we have a design and some ideas, but yeah, I think that this project is probably a little bit farther down the road than what we think.
Without financing or just here?
Without financing.
That's all the questions that I have. Just the time you guys are spending on this, I'm very thankful for the impact that this possibly has. And, we say green space, but if it isn't, there's no water to the green space, it's gonna be brown space. It's done bare bones. Sometimes you just don't do anything for a while versus, hey, this is gonna be the center of
I mean, I
what we're
can't,
trying to accomplish. It's gonna create some momentum. So if we want to do it all, what does that look like?
I think this
Let me
needs to
interject.
be one of the high priorities, but I don't know that it's an immediate.
I gotta leave, but what I would request is that you get done with REA, go to Crossroads, and start working on a budget with someone who actually is gonna build this and can manage the project and get better numbers and start deciding at that point, where are we at? The issue with REA is those numbers are not accurate as much as you want. That's the problem with landscape architect and designer. The numbers are never anywhere near what you want them having. So I think before you say, hey, we're just gonna cut everything under the dirt, and just have a grass field there for $1 million or $1.8 million, you can get a lot done for $1.5 million.
Right,
A
no,
lot done.
right,
And so
but I still think we're crunching
Right.
numbers with what we have available, no
Yeah,
matter
no,
what we do here. So,
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say to get with a group like Crossroads and start saying, okay, here, let's really start figuring out what we can do. We want to do here, but at a bare minimum, we're not even gonna do this project if we don't have these 7 things, right? I mean, there's no point in doing it if it's not green spaces, there's not a bathroom, there's not certain things, it's like, well, we'll just wait. You know, or that goes into, okay, let's face this, let's do a phase 1, which is half of the dream list, and then figure out financing and come back to the phase 2, where we can open it up and then come back and install the next phase, whatever that may be. But I mean, I think this is a huge priority for the town, and I think we can figure it out. It's just REA, the first few versions, what they drew, which is not plausible, right, for the cost. And the cost of all the products, that's it. Yeah.
Right.
But I think as we're looking at budgets and thinking about the future, that's where the parking lot, right, becomes something that you go, well, how important is that? Is that more important than the plaza? Probably not. You know, what's the point of, if you just do the parking lot without the plaza, I think you have to start deciding what are our priorities. What's the order of operation here that we want to spend our dollars? And whether it's $1.5 million or maybe it's $2 million, maybe the budget grows, because in reality, you're not starting this until 2023 in any case, because of the commitments to leave some of that. So, that's where that cash flow projections and what's coming in and what you want to do becomes so important.
Right.
So I apologize, but I have to go. Thank you.
So, what it is, and I think that's where we're at with this, is I think it is a priority, and we need to keep moving forward, but, I think budget is,
It's all.
what we have available right now, yeah.
And then what can we get with the cost, or not, if we're comfortable with that being the first iteration of this.
Do you guys ever do a kind of a fundraising campaign pieces of it?
We talked about that, that's the other thing that we need to look at is,
Like somebody want to put their name on the stage and like help fund it kind of thing?
and we kind of started talking about that, at the last meeting that we had about this, and, we need to start moving forward on that, so we need to start getting some letters out, things like that.
But we need a design
Right.
to show them first. So we need,
Yeah.
the first step is finalize this while figuring out what it is all reasonably gonna cost. And then if we wanna add a bathroom and other stuff, is that like an extra 300 grand, 200 grand? And then so what's the, help us fund this RFP out, right? Like what is a donation of $50,000 to you? Right, those are all the things we gotta figure out once we get this initial kind of figured out. So you're just part of that.
In our structure, and, obviously, I'm on the council, I don't know. When I hear somebody from the council, Andrew, say this is a really high priority for the council, and I would agree. I think this is one of the biggest priorities we have as a town, just to take that next big step. But who on staff? We all go when we leave, and then we got another meeting in 30 days. Who owns this and says, who is an employee or a part of Bargersville, like the town manager or whoever, that says, okay, when we walk away from this meeting, somebody's gonna be moving forward to say, okay, we got it, 2 million's gonna work out, instead of us just waiting every 30 days for us to talk about it and then move forward. You know what I'm asking, Joe? I know Julie's gone, town manager's gone, I don't know the status there, but what I would think if I'm the town manager and I hear the town council say this is a major priority, somebody's gonna own it behind the scenes so that Robin's not working on it at noon on, Thursdays. All I'm asking,
Yeah, on the financing side, we would be involved in looking at things, like seeing your options.
what you
I think the
said
town
is
just is
exactly
doing-
right, but
Right.
we have.
How does that
Yeah,
get-
you guys got to just keep,
Every week rather than every 30 days.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
Well, no, I was actually,
Yeah.
Chris, I was looking at Chris.
You know, I'd be happy to end up with that, we work with Chris and
Yeah,
Just normal.
so we basically just been functioning based off of what the committee says the next steps are.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how it's been flowing. That can
Yeah.
change however it needs to, but that's what's been.
Well, I think what CJ and I have talked about when we just, on our calls and things, is we have to have a design to even go to somebody and say, look, this is what you're getting. You know, if you fund us for X amount, I can put your name on this thing right here. So it's, you know, we have to have something to give them. So I think what we were trying to do at this point was wrap things up with REA on the design. And then once we've got that, we have what we need to start moving forward with the RFP. So I think that was sort of our next step, was to start working with Carissa to go forward with other ways to fund it, as well as talking to you guys about what we have available.
Yeah, there's a couple groups, Synchronicity is one of them, that they know, there's certain state grants that they will help actually kind of crowdfund, and that's who came to mind when you guys were talking about financing, just to try to figure out like other state grant fund programs and such, so, I mean, that's something that.
So I think we'll kind of mirror what we're doing with Pepper Park, and so we are working with that organization and for like a specific part of it. And we're working on some other grants as well, and so I think like that is in the works, and we're developing it slowly, but we're getting there. So I think that's in the works of what we're moving towards doing.
Okay.
Yeah,
How
so-
far are we away as a commission of saying, okay, up front, we're not gonna spend any more than $1.5 million, or we're not gonna spend any more than $2 million, no matter what our priorities are. If that gets us a bathroom and a sprinkler system, great. If it doesn't, then we're gonna hold off. Are we,
Well, I
how
would
do
say
we
once
decide
we
that as a group?
narrow down on what you gave us today and really get some numbers in there, that's when we'll know. It's pretty good projection.
If we just put
Yeah.
that number in
Yeah,
there,
or-
we're,
Yeah.
yeah, it's.
Yeah, essentially right now you
we're
can't,
not- Yeah, there's no more funds.
without
Yeah.
updated numbers for page 23, like your tip stream on an annual basis doesn't necessarily support a bond issue. Your cash on hand you have obviously is significant, so you have that you can work with for a certain period of time, but obviously we will be getting page 23 AVs probably in the next week or so. So we'll have some indication on what the percentage jump is. We know the town is increasing their tax rate, so even if we left the town's tax rate, I mean, we could kind of do a rough projection to see on an annual basis how much more you will be getting. And then we can structure a bond around that just to see where we can get, if we call it a bonding capacity, just to see what your opportunities are on the financing side.
And then this, our number one, is this really our number one priority? And we come to an agreement on that based on our guidelines. And then that will help us.
And so I think
That capacity, but
I heard land purchase at the very beginning of the executive section. So, again, keeping in mind that with the cash flows.
Yeah, my personal opinion is we've got to get it all out on the table and figure out based on the guidelines.
Okay.
Where.
when you say all like,
All the requests, all the potential, and then start to prioritize based on.
we kind of conduct that with REA. So,
I'll have a design.
yeah. We
Well,
don't
and
have a
the
whole
one
lot.
thing that I will say about this project as well, Andrew mentioned it, we're bound by a few things in the purchase agreement. So they have the one of the buildings they have until the end of this year, and the grain bin, they have, and that's something I have a question about, in the contract, they have, Umbarger has the option to rent that. We have the option to say no, but he can rent that until the end of 2023. So depending on what we decide to do with that, I don't know if there's the ability to remove it. I mean, there's nothing in the contract that says you can't remove it, but there is something about him being able to rent it from us.
Looks like only for 2 years.
So that would have been I was thinking from closing Andrews, that would have put it at the end of 2023. So that has to basically stay there until the end of 2023, or is there like an
Yeah.
option? Okay.
Well, yeah, I don't see any way around that.
Okay. So,
That first picture, you get a little one, like you showed us. Have we come to an agreement that that's basically, sorry, that's the ultimate?
so,
Yeah,
so the
that's-
very first thing you saw, that's what was everything we could possibly wanted,
Because there were
$3 million.
no other considerations of that.
Yes,
Yeah, I said that's basically.
That's the one.
that's the one.
So we have.
Yeah,
We have, if funding was not an issue, this
Yeah.
would be.
this would be it,
Right,
yeah.
get a check writer.
Right,
So,
Work backwards.
right. Yes, we have an ideal, we have a base. Now, how far can we get in between there with different funding options, crowdsourcing, and how we
and
base it?
time-wise, because of some of the things that we'd like to do with this, we're kind of bound until the end of 2023. So as far as shovels in the ground, I don't think that's really even
Yeah.
a possibility. So, I mean, funding,
Which might be good because
yeah,
if you guys sell the land that you're buying, those funds can be used for
yeah.
pretty much anything.
So that was kind of,
So,
also been our
Ideally, that
topic.
might be a great thing, then you wouldn't necessarily have to bond for it.
Yeah, so there are a couple of,
There's a lot of things that can
yeah,
happen
because like you
before.
can also clear the land. Right, get some building out of there, at least open it up a bit and not like actually do anything with it yet,
So
so.
it's not like.
Right, that kind of stuff, while we wait on that and,
Yeah, that is a good one too. There is, it's new size and a rendering up there.
right,
There's a
so,
lot of things that can happen.
But it ultimately comes down to bid, there's alternates too. Right? If we don't know what funding is coming in or what funding is going to be available, we can show that all it does is list those
Right.
as alternates and all of that. Because you're not going to know what the cost structure of the bid's going to be.
Right.
And once those bids come in, you get some choices.
thank you for the interest of time, that's where that stands. Once we get some of the finals back from RVA, then it's probably more boots on the ground, so take stuff with Carissa in terms of the, how do we actually do it. Okay, we'll move on to Sellers Market Grant West. And Eric, you weren't here last time, but Nathan from Taxman came in and essentially requested a grant as part of Sellers Market.
Yeah, I saw that in the minutes.
Yep.
And then between then and now, Nathan wrote to Julie and Eric and some others about their costs are even higher than they expected. And because of that, they now have a funding gap of $250,000. And so I guess that means now they're asking for $250,000 instead of $75,000.
I think we should get some guidelines together before we actually.
And when I hear that, when they say there's a funding gap based on what resources. I mean, yeah, it's a funding gap on paper, but they have access to other resources. Are they saying the project now?
Hey, Mark, can you say that again? I didn't catch everything you just said.
I guess when I hear that, just sitting here based on my background, I wonder when they say there's a $250,000 gap, that's based on they've explored all options and, or they just said, hey, let's up it to 250. I like what you said too. I would say that's first.
My vote would be guidelines, and then maybe even getting Nathan back in here to help walk through where the 175, the jump at 175 is coming from. And what, yeah, is that terminating the
But he's a
project?
lender who doesn't, who won't come to the table with more. So I guess it's happened all the time, you just work through it. He's trying to get
Yeah, I mean, he gave the numbers as to the total cost, but nothing about those types of roadblocks. He also did, Heidi alluded earlier, kind of did a comparison to doing a grant versus asking for an abatement. But nothing about, you know, why really is there a gap?
We all good with that? Next up, Eric, you comfortable with that?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, that's fine.
So do you want to have the discussion about guidelines at the next meeting and then bring him back for the following meeting in September? Or what are your thoughts so that can be communicated? Or if Eric, would you want to communicate that to him as well? Or how do you want us to handle that situation?
That could come from you guys. I think I would let them know what we need from them. And because the ask officially was 75 grand. And then there was kind of this email thing in between, but we need a specific ask from them with some support. And that could come at the August meeting, I think.
Okay. Where you're also going to discuss some policies, because I know Heidi and Ellen were gonna get together and kind of put those together as well, so.
Okay, executive session.
Right. And those could be adopted at the August meeting as well.
Okay.
Okay, we good with Sellers Market? All right, we'll move to updates from Department of Development and County Council.
Make it quick. Please. Okay.
For those of you that don't know, I'm Josie Dustin, the Director of Development for the department. Happy to be here this morning, but I thought it was next Thursday. You know, we continue to field a lot of development questions, primarily along 135. We've seen some activity out at the interchange. There's been some kind of preliminary discussion with some property that's partially in Bargersville, partially in Morgan County. How we move forward on that. I'll talk a little bit with Ellen on where our options there. Yeah, 135 needs to be high. That's what that places are starting to poke around. By the road there, intersection. Getting south, more residential development. Asking about that area.
Would it be appropriate, I mean, the report that we get an update on the levels and planning commission meeting. Would it be okay for them, for you to send that copy to everybody?
Absolutely.
Get it on commission, so we can see those.
Get more of the, activity report.
Yeah.
We would absolutely get that done.
You mean on a monthly basis?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean,
See it on a monthly basis, maybe for, I don't know.
Whatever is appropriate.
We can do that monthly with the planning commission.
It's kind of easy, it's just 9 minutes without a work packet.
Update that,
I think with what we're doing here and our guidelines and what you said as far as, hey, I have to deal with the pace of what's going on, and it, I think that would be good, but
it's already, I mean, the report's already prepared, so it's just a matter of
Sorry.
getting it
I agree. I'd
to
rather
Stephanie,
Yeah.
put it in the packet.
keep you up on what's
Right.
coming in, yeah.
We can
sometimes I forget there's a disconnect there, because I see it monthly.
always make sure it gets put in the packet.
the current project we have is a self-storage facility. Across the street from Kroger, our side, 135.
And we're about at the price you have.
There'll be a planning commission next week.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to resolutions. Start with 2022-07 amendment to bond resolution.
Something quickly about it. So the bonds are closing on Thursday, next Thursday. a week from today, as you guys are all aware, KeyBank is the purchaser on the bonds, and one of the provisions in the term sheet was that they have this default rate, basically meaning if you default on bonds for some reason, which is not anticipated, they would add an additional 3% on top of the current interest rate that would be in place. So Rich thought to be conservative and make sure the legal documents cover that, and he said it would happen, that we should adjust the resolution to basically state that with the default rate provision that it would be 7.66 would be the max. So the actual interest rate on the bonds is 4.66. Form would be the 7.66. So essentially, this resolution just amends that 7% maximum that we had in place to 8% maximum, just to cover yourself. So it's pretty quick and easy resolution. So you guys will have money in your account on next Thursday to make a purchase whenever. Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
All right, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Eric, we'll start with you.
Eric Prime, aye.
James Piper, aye.
CJ Francoeur, aye. Resolution passes. Next is resolution to provide a grant to Bargersville Main Street.
So that was a tax man ask.
Tabled.
Table, right, that was the source. Okay. We'll move to approve the minutes from June 9th, 2022. Any corrections or edits to those?
Motion to approve the minutes from 2022.
The roll call vote. Eric, start with you again on the phone.
Eric Prime abstain.
James Piper, aye.
CJ Francoeur, aye. Great, and then quick budget. Did everyone have a chance to review the budget? Any questions, the expenses? To approve, there are a couple in here.
One for the Daily Journal, one for legal counsel, and one for Rundell or REA.
I would say all of the expenses related to the land purchase that you've already expended. We will want to make sure that Lori reimburses your guys' account with bond proceeds and if that's the desire. The urgency, if that's a part of the 2.9 land purchase cost. It's not.
This is for Plaza.
Yeah, these are all for plaza.
Those are, I just saw some
But I can,
related to land purchase.
we can make sure of that.
Not this month, but.
Yeah. Okay.
And then do we need to approve these or have they already, okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget expense.
Second.
Roll call vote. Eric, start with you again on the phone.
Eric Prime, aye.
James Piper, aye.
CJ Francoeur, aye. Great, good there. Next meeting, if there's no other walk-ins, will be Thursday, August 11th at 7